Now, the organization the US government claims no longer exists. So again, remember, in 2020, they delisted ETIM, TIP, ETIM. They delisted it in 2020, saying it doesn't exist. Now the Western media is saying thousands and thousands of fighters belonging to this terrorist organization that the US says no longer exists, that's why they delisted it, they're now in Syria. So let's get into these Uyghur extremists the US created, used in China. China uprooted them. The US moved thousands and thousands of these extremists to Syria to help in the regime change war there. That war is now over. What are they going to do with these thousands and thousands of Uyghur extremists originally from China? Now the organization the US government claims no longer exists is in Syria and constitutes an entire military unit alongside al-Jawlani's HTS, having aided in the overthrow of the Syrian government late last year, again, late 2024. Since then, it has announced ambitions to expand its operations far beyond Syria. So again, exactly what the US-backed terrorists in Libya did after overthrowing the government there. The US then used them. Some of them they delisted and rehabilitated the image of. Others remained as extremists. The US continued backing all of them, and they spread extremism far beyond Libya to Syria and all across the rest of Africa. And now they will do the same thing in Syria. This is what they always do, and it's obvious that's what they're doing. And the Western media is telling you that's what they're doing. So the London Telegraph, in a December 13, 2024 article titled, "Uyghur Fighters in Syria Vow to Come for China Next." How convenient. The US now wants to focus on China as well. What a coincidence. And it claims a Uyghur militant group that helped to topple Bashar al-Assad has vowed to take the fight to China. Again, a militant group the US delisted because it said it doesn't exist anymore. And so here's the Western media telling you just 4 years later, no, they actually do exist, and there's thousands and thousands of them. There's a whole army of them, and they're in Syria. Again, the Turkestan Islamic Party, also known as ETIM, says its main mission to liberate the Muslims of East Turkestan, which does not exist, from the Chinese occupation. East Turkestan is what US-backed terrorists and separatists call Xinjiang, China. Xinjiang is recognized under international law as part of China. It is a part of China. There is no such thing as East Turkestan. This is a name made up by the US, and this campaign to carve it off of the rest of China. And if you look at a map, Xinjiang is where much of China's land routes that it's trying to use to circumvent an impending US maritime blockade, it is a region of China that these land routes go through. So if you were to carve it off, you would cut off a significant portion of the Belt and Road Initiative, where it originates and passes through inside China to go to all of these other places China would seek to reach if it couldn't do so by sea. The ability to do so, to take the fight to China, is only possible with continued US government backing, including training, weapons, and logistics via regional proxies, including Turkey, who prepared and incorporated the militants in the invasion force that toppled Syria's government in the first place. The US is also clearly rehabilitating the terrorist organization, its HTS partners, as we just mentioned, and HTS's leader, al-Jawlani himself, who was literally in the White House recently, both enabling greater, more open support from the US for these terrorist attacks and enabling the US to condemn any measures China and its Belt and Road Initiative partners attempt to take to stop it. So if you rehabilitate these organizations and you say, no, these are good guys now, they're freedom fighters, they helped us in Syria, and they just want peace and freedom, and they want to free all of their brothers and sisters in East Turkestan, which is actually Xinjiang, China. When China and its partners react to the terrorism that the US is already carrying out against them, the US will say, see, look at China attacking these poor, innocent, aspiring freedom fighters. China is bad. China's partners are bad, and they will use that to put pressure on them. This is what they have already done regarding the terrorism the US sponsored inside Xinjiang itself. They said China's carrying out a genocide by stopping admitted widespread off the charts terrorism taking place in Xinjiang. So they'll do that again too. They reuse all of these processes over and over again because they work and people never catch on to them. Short of fighting in China itself, the Telegraph in its accompanying video would note, and so this is a quote from the video, can TIP take the fight to China, home of the world's largest military with 2 million active troops? Probably not. It's easier said than done. Still, TIP could target Chinese projects or embassies abroad, which is just blatant terrorism. It's literally terrorism, but the Telegraph never depicts it as terrorism. And the US will not depict it as terrorism. They will depict it as fighting against evil China, and all of these things are justified. Just like they did all along in Syria from 2011 to 2024. These terrorists sawing people's heads off, lighting people on fire, killing men, women, and children deliberately, openly. And the US would say, well, they're just fighting against the evil dictatorship of President Bashar al-Assad, and so this is what they have to do. And if it gets really bad, they'll say, well, those are terrorists, but they're separate from the moderates that we're backing, the moderates that don't actually exist. So there's many different ways they can deal with this depending on how they become cornered in their own narratives. So the Telegraph says TIP could target Chinese projects or embassies abroad. What if I told you they're already doing this? What if I told you US-backed terrorists are already doing this all along the Belt and Road Initiative outside of China itself? So this fits into an already ongoing US-sponsored terrorist campaign of targeting Chinese BRI projects across Eurasia, including in Balochistan, Pakistan, the southwest Pakistan called Balochistan, and in Southeast Asia's nation of Myanmar.